said, I mean, there's no one like me. Trying, deep down, you trying. What's up, what's up? It's your boy Paris Hart and Jason. You're tuning into another episode of the For Love of It podcast. We got here Brooklyn's finest, you know, representing BAM alumni out here.
Yeah, you know what it is.
You got DJ Banner. How's it going?
Everybody clap it up, clap it up.
Oh, man, we good, man. Happy to be here. Appreciate y'all.
Anytime. So, to get it started, what was it like growing up in Brooklyn?
Man, I mean, you know, Brooklyn's got this crazy rep, but I would say that, like, a lot of people say, like, yo, man, what is Brooklyn crazy? And I would say, yeah, but not really. I think LA's crazier in a way in terms of the people and in terms of, like, all that. For me, growing up in Brooklyn was, like, you know, it was all about being connected to the culture, to the music. I had a lot of really great, you know, communities that I was around. I was like, my mother raised me in the drum circles, like in the Park Slope African drum circles. I studied jazz as a kid. So I was like, I played the drums and I was big into always just really music was a huge part of my life as a kid in Brooklyn. And I also was a hip hop head. This is where I learned to freestyle and, you know, eventually led me to do some of my hip hop production. I got my first MPC back there. And I was always really big into New York hip hop culture, Queensbridge, Nas, all that kind of stuff. So those are, you know, New York's a big influence on, I would say, my musical scope, you know, as a producer.
Right.
And then, yeah, I would say like the best part of growing up in New York is really just like the tolerance it gives you and the sense of community, I think is important, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that, go ahead, Paris.
I just gotta say quick. So, who are your top rappers from Brooklyn? Who you got in your playlist all time?
All time, obviously, you know what I'm saying. Shout out to Big for life. You know, Jay-Z. You know, I'm big. Well, they're not exactly Brooklyn per se. They're more Queens, but in terms of just the real New York, I mean, I grew up on a lot of Wu-Tang. You know what I'm saying? A lot of Ghost. A lot of actually more Queens than anything. I would say the Queens rappers is like my true like favorite. But obviously in terms of like my flow and pocket, B.I.G. is a huge influence. And you know, like man, all of those cats, you know what I'm saying? Like RZA, you know, Capadonna, all the OGs, you know what I'm saying, that really kind of started the original sound. You know, and then I love a lot of these other East Coast producers like Alchemist, big fan of Alchemist, and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So top 5, I would definitely put them all as New York, but it's hard for me to say top 5 of just Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying?
Understandable.
Yeah.
Do you have any musical taste that was like really outside of your scope, or really outside of like your normal circle of listening to that you just really banged with when you were growing up, or like even like right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say the other big genre that I love that a lot of people will be surprised is film scores. I love
film scores.
I have a huge collection of movie scores, bro. And if you go back to like my old podcast, like my old iPod, it's got like, man, I must have like 300 or 400 full complete original soundtracks on there. I know all the composers, James Horner, John Williams, and my background, like I mentioned, was jazz, but it was also orchestration. So that's a huge aspect of my sound. You know, I love doing like the piano and string composition, and I studied sort of the compositions of like a lot of those great scores. So a lot of people will be surprised by that. I'm kind of like a film score nerd, even though I'm like this like East Coast hip hop head, but I can nerd out on scores. You know what I'm saying? Like I love film in general. I love the way that music and film come together. I feel like it makes music so much more emotional when it's part of a film. You know, one of my favorite directors from, speaking of Brooklyn, is Spike Lee, one of my top directors. And like the film Clockers is a great example to me of how music is emotionally drawn out in film so well and creates, like Spike Lee just in general as a director is so brilliant at the way he selects his compositions and his scores. So yeah, I would say film compositions is sort of like the ace card that no one expects from me, you know?
Yeah, and it makes sense. If you're going to go into production, you like these full production-esque sounds, so you bring kind of like the scope and like the shape of production to like the hip-hop circle, and I like that in your music a lot.
I appreciate that, bro.
Full sounds, a lot of intricate moving pieces, and it's not very like monotonous. It's like the different pieces come together at once, and it makes sense now.
Well, one thing that I like to pride myself on as a producer is that, you know, people are like, so you're a DJ? And I go, nah, let me put it like this. I'm a composer, producer, engineer who happens to also DJ. So it's a big difference.
Multifaceted.
The big difference is the pecking order of that. So what you got a lot now in this younger generation are actually rapper DJs who kind of are like, dang, I'm not musical at all, but I feel like to put my name out there, I got to have my own beats. So they basically become producers, but what happens is because they don't have the compositional training, they get trapped a lot into going online and doing loops and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not knocking that, you know, because some producers are really good at doing that. But I like to pride myself on I don't use any of that. Like all of my records are original. Even down to the sound design, to the way the synthesizer sound. I do granular synthesis myself. So I'm more from the old school, really building my beats from the ground up. You feel?
Yeah, I feel you. So how important do you think it is as like up and coming artists now to have multiple skill sets? Because I know you mentioned that, like, you know, even trying to get into the game, if you don't have a certain type of like training, you get like trapped in these little like pits. So what's your take on multiple skill sets for artists?
I mean, I know some hip hop producers, man. They can't play no instruments. They can't do nothing. But I'm not knocking them because I see them out there making moves with their brand and making moves with their sound. I just think that it's limiting. If you call yourself a producer, but you don't play an instrument and you don't have any musicality. Because at the end of the day, yeah, you can make some beats and you can get some placements and that's dope. You know, and if that's all that you're really trying to do out here, then nothing wrong with that and I get it. But what I like about being able to be a composer and have the multifaceted is like, you're going to be able to help a variety of artists. Like if a singer comes in, for example, and needs help coming up with a melody line for a hook, if all you do is do loop beats, you might struggle to really add value to her. Like, how are you going to help her write a melody line for a hook if you have no music theory, no compositional training? Now, you might have a brilliant ear, so some people can just use their ear. But I would say having training in different facets of music is really important, and it's kind of like going to set you apart. Because if you can compose and you can come up with your own melody lines, you're never going to run out of ideas. You're never gonna be dependent on other people, you know. And then that way you have a beat, and people are like, "Oh, I love this melody line." Not like, "Oh, I feel like I heard this loop on Splice." Like, you feel me? Like, I feel like you know, yeah. I've had a lot of producers put stuff out, and then they go online and they realize, dang, some other producer already dropped this loop on something and bodied it, and you know, it doesn't take away from the beat of the other guy who used it, but it's just better to make your own stuff, you know?
Felt that. So
yeah,
if right now I'm a bedroom producer, I just wake up, make beats in my little computer at home, what would your advice be to me to grow and expand my career and possible opportunities?
So it's two-faceted, right? I think, you know, first of all, no knock to bedroom producers because the top producers in the game are often bedroom producers. I mean, Scott Storch is a bedroom producer. So I want people to know that term, you know, is not a knock to any producer. I mean, with the technology now, we can do everything in our place, basically. You know, what I would say is it's a twofold thing. You need to keep working on content. You need to finish records, finish your products, your beats. Don't be one of them producers that gets the beat 70% there and then gets ADD and bored and moves on to another beat that you get to 70%. You know, pick your 5 hottest beats, finish them, get them mixed and mastered, and then clear them out of your arrangement on Logic or whatever DAW you use. So you're done with those products. Those tracks are finished and they're in your library. It's very important to have the psychological skill set of completing work. This is something that I think that like 90% of producers struggle with, and artists in general. And it's a huge roadblock for a lot of people, you know. And then I would also say, you know, expand your musicality. Take piano lessons if you want to, you know, if you have it doesn't have to be piano. If you like to play the guitar, well, then keep working on your guitar, you know. That way you you have musicality that you can add to it. And then you have to also, the biggest thing nowadays, you got to invest in your brand. That's something that I've been working on as I've developed the marketing wing of my label. Unfortunately, a big thing that a lot of people get stuck in is this idea that, well, my music's hot and it's just going to get discovered, or like, somebody's going to find my stuff and share it. And unfortunately, the way the climate is now with internet media, it's so saturated that people need to understand that there's no one's going to discover your shit. That's just not going to happen that way. People will discover it if you invest in pushing it out there. And so people, you have to constantly be running promos and getting press and getting those things on your own stuff and pushing your own brand out there. That's super crucial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned that one of the biggest flaws for artists is kind of getting in this like this ADD rut and not finishing the work.
Yeah.
What is like a typical work day look like for you?
Yeah, and I say that because I was one of those artists for a long time. I say all my biggest criticisms to people in life are always things that I did. That's why I know how to criticize about it. So that's important. You know what I'm saying? Like those are always the best critics. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, you asked about like, how do I deal with that? How do I deal with that?
Like what's your work day? What's your work day like?
Oh, work day. So usually my work day, I like to try to start my mornings off with more of my business side. As y'all, y'all can see over here, I'm also a bit of a stock investor. So I got CNBC pulled up. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
I do my mornings, do my day trading. I usually schedule my sessions later on into the afternoon and into the evening. I find that like that's when I'm the most zoned in on work, is like 3 till like 8 p.m. So I like to work out and do anything that I need to take care of in the day first thing. So my business stuff first, emails, and any kind of errands, anything I got to get done, I try to get it done early and bang it out. And get my workout in so my mind's right, come back, and then, usually start working on stuff for my clients then, whether it's online, media boosts, or if they have press articles I got to help them write. And then I have sessions with clients later in the afternoon and evening. Now with COVID, I've actually really kind of limited I don't really do engineering much anymore. I used to be like somebody that a lot of rappers and artists could go to, is somebody who did in-studio production engineering. And even though I'm vaxxed and everything, I've been more cautious with that. And also I just feel that like, you got to be careful about who you allow in your personal space. So a lot of my work now is mobile, or I do stuff for very select artists, that I allow into my intimate space in the studio. I used to be, when I was, younger, I was like, everybody was coming through. I work with a lot of, big name rappers, especially from the 90s and 2000s. And that was cool and everything. But I prefer to be a little bit more private these days, so that's what my day usually consists of. And then, like the evening, usually I like to step out. I work from home for the most part. So I like to, get out in the town, especially now that we have some, freedoms to be out while we still have it. Try to enjoy, just going out and doing restaurants, things like that. But mainly my afternoon is filled with being locked in the studio. And what's another thing I tell producers? A lot of producers love this late night schedule. And my biggest piece of advice to young cats coming up is to cut that late night schedule out. Yeah, I know it's fun, working with your friends in the studio till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, but it's really unhealthy, and it actually creates long-term brain fog. So the best move is to go to bed early and get up early, and really try to, it doesn't be early, but I try to be resting by midnight so that I can be up 7 or 8 and grinding,
Felt that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I totally feel keeping that circle tight, because coming into the game, like, it's all about quantity. But then after you work with some artists and actually after you see how they move, it's like, like, I actually don't want to just be on everyone's track. I actually want to have that relationship with them and work with people who are like actually helping me grow. So totally understand that. And if there's someone that just really wants to work with you, what is something that you tend to just be a deciding factor to why you want to work with them, or why you decide to work with somebody?
To be real, I really like to just how people move. I pay attention to how people move, and I look for just like, is this person seem vetted to me? Does it seem respectful? unfortunately, like, especially like in LA, it's like there's so many people who are not who they appear to be, or they're scamming, or they can turn on you and they can be funny styles. So I've gotten very, very cautious with who I deal with now out here. Like my experience has told me to keep your circle really, really tight. And if I'm working with somebody I don't really know, or I'm building a relationship, I'll usually outsource to another studio. Like, they're not going to be all up in my spot. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
the old me, I'd be like, yeah, pull up, we'll pull up, like, let's vibe, let's have a kickback and shit. It's like, nah, those days are over, dude. Like, I learned my lesson doing that. Everybody don't need to know where you live. Everybody don't need to know who you move with. Everybody don't need to be around your girl, around your friends. Keep that on the low, man, because people will exploit any knowledge they have of you out here. And that's the sad truth of where we're at now in society. So I just tell people, stick with your lane, stick with the core group of people around you who've supported you, and, just background check everybody else. Any new friends is getting investigated for real out here. Like, that's how I move, bro. Like, I don't play with fools out here no more, dog. Not in LA, you know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe on the East Coast, you know what I'm saying? It's not as bad like that, but out here you got to be really cautious with that. So, yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice, you know what I'm saying? And also do what you're good at. Stop trying to do something you're okay at and be like, oh, but I can also do this. No, hire that person. Like, for example, like, I'm a very good producer and a very good composer, and I would say I'm a pretty good arranger, right? But I'm not a genius arranger. So I arrange the record about 80%, and then I outsource my arrangement. I bring on an arranging master for like all of my records. And like, so a lot of people try to do everything themselves. And sure, there are certain producers out there who are they can do every single thing all the way, but most don't. You want to know how Khaled and Scott Storch and these dudes be finishing these records so fast and so polished? Well, because they outsource. They got a pro engineer. They bring in an arranger, and again, it comes down to, you got to be able to put a budget behind your music. What I always tell people is, like, you want to have a song, you want a serious product and a release with a song, you should be expecting to put somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 behind it, for real. Between, and that's minimum. That's not even no extra stuff. That's just like to get it properly mastered, to get it properly arranged, to run a proper Spotify campaign, to get proper press and IG engagement on it, that's, I tell people, if they really put that kind of budget into their song from the beginning to the end, you're going to look at your other music and you're going to be like, oh, wow, I see the value out of what I had. A prime example of that is my last release. All my other releases, I did 100% on my own. And they did pretty well. I mean, I've been in the charts before. 2 of my EDM tracks that I did by myself were top 100 Beatport. But this last one I did, I outsourced the final arrangement, and I hired Chris Wells, a really dope engineer back in New York, to mix it. And, it did way better than my other releases. It got to 46 on iTunes. You know what I'm saying? It's gotten over 57,000 streams in under 2 weeks. It's moving. And so that's what I tell people is, like, it sucks that that's where the game is, but, remember, you keep the residuals of that investment. So if you're moving units and everything like that, a lot of that money is going to come back to you, and you don't got to owe it. I mean, you just got to do what any label, people are like, well, I don't want to do that. I want a major label deal. Well, what do you think a major label does for you? They're going to that's what they're going to do. And the difference is they're going to keep all your music. They're like, okay, so if we put in 10,000 on this release, if we put in 20,000 on this release, well, now 20,000 is on your head. You owe that basically back to the label.
Yeah.
Me, I'd rather put in the money myself, and I only owe me back. You feel what I'm saying? So that's what I recommend. Stay independent. You know what I'm saying? And focus on, ways that you can save and add, income powers that you can invest in your music and your brand.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing too that I think a lot of artists need to hear, and they need to hear it here, is that when you say invest into your own music, that doesn't just mean promoting it on Instagram, promoting it on Facebook, wherever they decide to promote it. But it means making sure that the quality of the content is up to par, because a lot of people in the industry, a lot of people that have been doing this and doing it well, like you have, can tell the difference of a song that's mastered, a song that hasn't been mastered, and a song that hasn't been recorded properly on the right equipment. So I just want to say thank you for saying that, because I think there's so many artists out there who maybe have a lot of great potential, or who are really good at beat making but can't write songs, or who really have good lyrics but their beats aren't really hitting. So for any artist that's out there listening, I think realize what you're good at, like DJ Bander said, and just make sure you have a solid team and you have those open doors and open arms to get people around you that fit what you can do and who actually help you out and help you grow.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to grind. One thing I know is y'all seem pretty young out here, you know what I'm saying? Like, one thing that's different about y'all generation in your early 20s and stuff like that versus when we was coming up is that we understood that it's a long race and it's a grind. I think a big problem with this new generation is a lot of y'all is very impatient and don't want to put in that work. And it's like fools feel like if you ain't going platinum at 21, you done. And it's like, the problem is with that is like, that's why nobody really has these long, fruitful careers anymore. You hear about these young kids, they might pop on something, and then it's like, what happened to that fool? You know what I'm saying? You know, so I tell people, you know, like, be tight with your finances, study, study, ways to invest. This is something that I like to talk about too. I have a whole other side to my brand, which is like mentorship and financial consultations. And I talk a lot about this on Clubhouse and stuff. And maybe we could collab on something together. You know what I'm saying? Right? Because I really love to help this younger generation, because I feel like there's just this impatience. And realizing that it does take a grind, and like, you're not too good to get that job. You're not too good to get that extra summer job, like working on the side of a house or doing some field work or something that allows you to save one extra $1,000 per month. And in 5 months, you got enough to drop a budget for a single. Like, people are so eager to just have this fast money, fast results stuff. And that's just not the way the game works. You know what I'm saying? It's a long race. It's about longevity out here. And I'm more relevant and way more on in my 30s now than I was in my 20s. And it was because I just kept focusing on my crafts. I kept focusing on what I did. I didn't worry about, oh, dang, I got to do this, or like, oh, I got to do that. I just stuck with what I knew, and I kept slowly continuing to invest in my brand. So that's what it takes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I feel like to that, definitely growing up in your generation, it was about like longevity and making things like last, because our generation is really focused on getting the bag and getting famous quick, because a lot of the voices of our generation die young. Like, a lot of artists are dying young. A lot of people are getting blown up overnight, it seems, and that's the image that we're getting. And on top of that, we're competing with people our age, posting pictures. Everybody's trying to be up to date with what they're doing in life, and it really feels like a rat trap. Like, just like, oh, I'm gonna go get the cheese first. Like, it's not about the cheese. I was just talking about this.
One thing that's so crazy is like, man, a lot of these new rappers, man, like, they're coming in, they're making so much money, and instead of being about building a foundation, they blowing all their money at Icebox. I mean, you literally got to come in. Like, Icebox is about to take an entire generation's wealth, bro. I mean, you got these young kids dropping 100 bands, 200 bands on Ice. Why? So they can have one more Cuban links than the next guy. And I tell people, man, these 100 people don't understand. When you're in your early 20s, if you have an opportunity to get on these tours and you're making $100,000 a show, every one of those shows, every one of those $100,000 licks, if you invested it, each one of those can become $1 million. So by blowing 100,000 on Ice, you're really throwing $1 million away. That's what people need to understand. Yeah. You got to stop thinking people got to stop thinking so short-sighted and understand that, it's a big deal to make that kind of money. And this, people thinking, oh, it's always going to be coming in like that, it's usually not. Normally, your biggest checks when it comes to those live shows and live events are in the beginning. Those are the ones you want to save. And one thing I teach about is like, people don't realize that, if you invest it like in high yielding bonds or different type of REITs and stuff that I'm in, you can make enough from the interest payments on that money invested to buy all the Rolexes and Ice you could ever want, and you still keep your money. So that's what I tell young people, man. Save your principal, save your cash, never spend your cash for something important. If you want to own something, let's say you want a brand new Mercedes, well, then you should have your money invested and the dividends paying off that investment pay for your Mercedes. And then you can have all the Mercedes, you can drive whatever you want. Anything that you can afford with passive income, you should spend. That's what I tell people. So, I mean, it's true. I mean, I understand there's a lot of these young people and this is what they're not understanding. And I just hope that, there's new ways to get the message out about the importance of this, because I get it. A lot of people, there's kind of like a short-sighted mentality that's becoming really culturally normalized, and that's not good,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, bro.
That little
so.
Oh, and I think that's a big thing too, is that you pointed out was artists that first time, the first tours where they get the most, because I don't think a lot of artists realize that if you go perform in Chicago, let's say an artist sells out and they're coming up, how many of those people are going to return to see you again? Because they already have that peace of mind saying, oh, I saw that artist. I already went to their concert. So
right.
It just lessons and lessons. It's hard to be a Bon Jovi. It's hard to be someone that could just tour for their life. So I'm thankful that you're preaching what everyone should hear. Is just.
Yeah, bro, and focusing on a brand that's relevant outside of just live performances. I mean, look at what's happening with COVID. We don't even know if we're going to get locked down again at some point. So so being powerful online and also having a brand that spans beyond music. Like, look, I've turned my brand. Now I'm a producer. I have revenue. I can rev gen that. I can rev gen being a marketing director, and I can rev gen being a consultant advisor. So I've utilized all my skill sets and made it all part of the DJ Bander brand. And not saying that's for everyone. That happens to have worked for me because of like my business background and what I've been able to do for it. But it does allow me to I haven't done a live show in almost 2 years. But okay, my company's had a record profits this year, because I'm doing different. I've pivoted. I'm focusing on online marketing. I'm focusing on consultation and development. This is just something that like a lot of these artists, need to understand is like, you want to diversify your brand away from just the quick show money. Not saying that money isn't big, because it really is, especially if you like a Drake, if you're a Kodak Black, one of these big dudes, you're going to make mad money from the live shows. But I just wish that there was more of, I wish investing and seeing the money accumulate in your accounts was as cool as having Patek and, APs on the wrist, because, there's really these young kids have no business buying those kinds of watches and all this stuff, spending six figures. Like, if your net worth isn't over, if you don't have say 10 to 20 million in real estate and stocks and things invested, you have no business spending $100,000 on anything. That's the mentality that people need to get. It's like, you want to get rich. Like, I accumulated a lot of money for myself. I didn't live a balling lifestyle till I was you know what I'm saying? Like in my 30s, basically. I lived just as meager all through my 20s, even when I didn't need to anymore. And there's just not enough. That should be cooler. That's cool. Like
being humble, right?
I'm looking to make sure that if I have kids, I'm gonna take care. They're gonna be straight. They ain't gonna have to trip. Like that's that's cool. I don't care if you know what I'm saying. Like if fools think I got AP money or not, I really don't. Like it doesn't. What does that do for me to impress other people? It's like we got to get over that. Phil. So
I feel you 100%.
Yeah, man. But y'all seem like you got your head right. You know what I'm saying? I ain't preaching to y'all, but I know you guys got a lot of followers and people who message your show. So just got to let them know, man. You know what I mean? It's bigger out here. And if anybody has questions about this stuff, make sure you let them know. They can tap in with me on the gram. Like, I really like helping people. A lot of my intro consultations are free. I'm here. I respond to all messages. If people have questions about stocks or crypto or real estate and stuff. And I just think it's cool to see and some people are getting into it. I mean, I meet a lot of young people in these investment rooms on Clubhouse that are really starting to do their thing, but it's not enough people. Should be more, that start looking into this stuff, So
I definitely trade. I do day trading too. I do I do crypto, I do currency pairs, stuff like that. And I from my perspective going in, a lot of people get trapped into these multi-level market kind of like scam. I don't say scams, but like, you feel me? Those business plans and programs that's just not for them, and it's just very hard to find like good and trustworthy like information out on the internet. And I know that you have a Clubhouse room, so if you could talk like a bit more about like what do you guys do, and like run us down so that our listeners who are interested and even me can like get more information.
I mean,
join.
Yeah, I at the moment, to be honest, I don't host my own rooms. I'm brought on as a moderator at some of the biggest rooms though on Clubhouse. So like Stocks and Prosper by Fortes is like the third biggest stock room in the US right now on Clubhouse. I mod on there a lot. I'm kind of brought in as somebody. They call me the dividend king. I think it's funny. I don't know. I don't feel like that, but I'm very, very good at passive income.
I mean, I realize that as a big hindrance is just like finding people that have the same mentality as me.
Too many people think it's about impressing girls with the things they have. To be honest, it's really not. Like, impress yourself. Impress somebody by being able to be like, oh, I have a strategy. I could start a family. I don't need all these fancy things because I'm stacking, And so, and finding like-minded people, is really, really important. But the biggest thing is switching that mentality shift. And some people have spending addictions and serious issues with that. And so there's only so much you can help those people. You really have to help people like switch their mentality. So if it's hard for you to not spend money of coming in, that's something that people need to address. They need to work on that. Like, what are you compensating for? What is the root of what's causing that? Because, the constant need to impress others with material stuff is really how a lot of people get themselves into trouble, and then, pay attention to something you're interested in. If you're interested in stocks, so you should be following the news, follow CNBC. A lot of investing also has to understand world affairs. So you need to follow the news. Like, you should just be an aware person, like what's happening in the world, like everything that's happening in the stock market, the crypto market, the banking financial markets, and the music entertainment industry is all a reflection of where the world is and the syncopation of all of the worldly events. So being scholarly in your knowledge of like political science, economic science, and those sort of disciplines is what also gives you the edge. Read a book a month about finances, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, read important books about this stuff. You gotta, like, let's make being smart cool again. It used to be cool. Like back in the day, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love it, like Boardwalk Empire, gentlemen would have a cocktail and they would talk about the book that was sitting on the guy's table, Now it's like, what car are you pulling up in and hating on each other and stuff. We just got to get out of this. We got to switch things up, man. We got to go back to our roots, go back to the classy gentleman vibes, That's what I tell people.
100%.
Yeah, man.
And a lot of these new artists don't realize that going out flashy probably isn't the best thing. I know it makes the records sell and it makes everything look cool, but at the end of the day, that just adds a bigger target on you, and it really doesn't have as many people that you would want to say, oh my gosh, I'm happy for this artist, I'm happy for this rapper, whatever. They're not going to be happy. They're just going to use it as a talking point until something bad happens. And they're going to wait for you. They're going to wait for you to crash. They're going to wait for you to lose money, for you to not have a popping show. And they're going to use everything that you have and that you showed them against you. So I think a lot of artists just need to recognize what they're actually putting out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that, like, really Nas is like one of the only last, like, cultural, like, woke intellectual rappers that charts in the top 100, basically. Like, it is so, and if you like look at some of the biggest artists that were on that, they either the system either got rid of them or just deaded their careers. I mean, look at KRS-One, like all these fools that I grew up with, like, who were just so, I'm like, what happened to these people? And so it really starts with, these artists that are talented and that have a sound, like, don't be afraid to, like, rap about something that's relevant to you, that you think is deep, that is, you don't have to, continue to perpetuate the ignorance. Like, it can stop with you. You can change it. And if you have a fan base, stop being afraid to pivot into something deeper to your fan base. Stop being afraid to be like, oh, if I don't stay as the most ignorant, they're not gonna rock with me anymore. I mean, if that's how you feel, then you don't really believe in your talent at the end of the day. You only believe in this image you're portraying. So, you know, I think that's too bad, you know, and I hope that people kind of try to rewire them, and it really has to start with it. You know, it's like, it's just, yeah, you know, it's really, really too bad. You know, we gotta work to change where the system is going. But
right. But yeah, it's like, and you know what's crazy? For a lot of people, that image for them, the act, it works. Like they put on this, oh, I'm this gangster person, or I'm this baller person, and that's their brand. And a lot of people don't understand it. Like the people that we see that we're trying to imitate, a lot of it is just characters. Like, like a lot of people that I know that like rap like really hard music is really out here like murdering people all the time. Murdering out here like drowning in money all the time. And I feel like people trying to figure out like who their character is a lot of like the struggle for new artists. So who would you say like the character of DJ Vander is? Like what kind of image do you portray to your fans?
Yeah, it's a really good, that's great that you brought that up, because I do feel like we're living in a time where people struggle to find their identity. And it's like, and then if people have identity, people just hate on you. It's like, oh, you're not lost and you don't know who you are. Oh, like I hate you. Like how dare you?
You
like,
must be
how
fake.
dare you like know who you are and like are happy about that? Like, like, you know, it's like, you know, I like to see, what I try to do is I just look at myself as like a slightly cartoonized version of who I actually am. Like I don't portray anything that I'm not. I don't talk about anything on my brand or do anything that I'm not. I'm a business guy. I'm a hip hop head. I'm a piano player. I'm Jewish. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm just me, you know? And like, obviously I don't put every personal thing like into who my brand is, but I just try to make DJ Vander me. Like I'm an investor. I'm a marketing guy. I'm a music guy. And in my music, I try to, you know, sometimes I rap. Mainly I like to sing in most of my solo artist stuff. And it's mainly just, I like to focus on like emotional experiences. Most of my songs are about betrayal. Most of my songs are about people not understanding you in the industry, or like, you know, females in the past not appreciating you. Just real stuff that people connect to. Like, you know, everybody in their life has a really amazing story and experiences. We all do. You guys do. Everybody has been through some heavy stuff. And so talk about that, because it's nothing that anybody else has exactly experienced the same way. And it's like, I do think a lot of times, especially you get a lot of these kind of kids that grew up in like pretty much like really solid homes, suburban life, and they're out here and deep down, they're insecure because they feel like there's nothing really genuinely cool or unique about them. This is what really happens. There's nothing really unique about them, even though there is, but they don't see it that way. And so what they do is they create these personas like to be somebody else at, you know, because then of course, then people will like relate to them, you know, like, you know, so I just think, I don't know, like this people need to understand, you know, and people are judging, not understand. Like people were like, you know, like me, like I have lots of tattoos. Doesn't mean I'm living some street life. I love tattoos because I love the art of it. I love tattoos because you know what I'm saying? Like I love, I don't know. I can have my sleeves tatted. I don't need to work a job. I got too much money to work a job now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not flexing. Like I'm not saying I'm a goon. I'm not saying I'm a trapper. I'm saying I can get tatted and I like it. I like the art of it. Just be yourself, man. Like don't tat or rep shit that's not you. Don't like, you know, just be a good person and let your reputation speak for itself. Like, I know that the real people who rock me, I don't trip. Like, occasionally I get people who hate and talk shit on me on the internet and stuff like that. I don't trip on that, because at the end of the day, like, like anybody who actually rocks with me knows that I'm genuine. So it's like, if you roll that way, then, you know, whatever. But if you roll disingenuous and you kind of roll a little bit fugazi, well, that's when you're going to start getting like this, you know, a lot of, you know, I see a lot of these rappers, they post and you can see like thousands of people in the comments, like, man, he's so fake. He's so this, he's so that. It's like, well, is it really worth it? Now this is your identity is all tied up in having to convince these people. And you've got like, you'll have like, say 3,000 comments from people defending you and 2,000 comments from people attacking you. I just don't want to ever have to, that seems like a very you're trapped. It sounds like miserable to me to like have that be your career, even if you're getting rich from it. You know, your reputation is really important. You know, you start losing your reputation, you get in trouble with drugs, you get in trouble betraying people and doing shady stuff. All of a sudden, that's going to become who you are. And before you know it, like, it's really hard to salvage your career at that point. You know, like, that's the thing. So, you know, people just need to understand that. You know what I mean? So I know we branched off from your original question, but
hey, man, it's fine, wherever the conversation takes you. Like, one thing that really came up is just like when people try to be something else, they literally all people like screwing up is just them not being themselves, like trying to be a compromise, like a combination of different like labels and different like things you do. And it's just, I feel like people have a hard time figuring out what like defines like a person. I don't think
there's like dude, there's also like people need to understand it's okay to be rejected by certain people that you grew up with that you thought were going to be those people that were always there for you, because you've developed into something that's intimidating or threatening to them, even though you're just being yourself. Like, I have friendship crews that I always wanted the approval of and wanted to be cool with, but they just don't like that I've done this well in the industry. It just intimidates them or bothers them for whatever reason. And I'm cool with it now. You know, I accept it. Hey, okay, so like y'all really just don't like what I'm on. Like, I can't do anything about that. You know, stop trying to please everybody. Like, this is another thing. Like, if you're obsessed with being liked and accepted by everyone, dude, like, the industry is not for you. Creativity and art is not for you. Yo, just go back to the desk job with that, because it's like, people, if you cannot do something original and not have critics, you know, because most people aren't creative and don't have the privilege of being able to express something unique. And so it's just a natural thing. Like, when you have it going on in some sort of art form, some people are gonna feel the type of way about that. Other people are gonna love it and be drawn to you immediately. It's just the way it goes. And you have to just be cool with that and stay in your authentic lane despite that, you know? Yeah.
Facts. And you see a lot of people where they get known and get huge and they get clout, fame, everything that they want off of a fake image. And it's 2021. You could literally Google everybody and get everyone's information in 2 seconds.
What I'm saying.
So you see them just get big and just steep decline to just, oh, he's not about that. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. He says he does this, but on Google it says that. And you see them just fall off like that.
Yeah. I never understood that. I don't understand why people like, I mean, I have friends who grew up really tough in the hood and like had to do street stuff and all this shit. Like, dude, they're not happy about that stuff. I mean, the real ones that I know that do that, they're like
not happy.
They're miserable. Like, and they're not trying to rap about the shit. Like, I got homies, if I need some like, I can get at some real ones. Trust me, they don't come over here trying to get on the mic to spit about some dirt they just did. Like, the real ones ain't doing that. They're like low key about their shit. And most of them, if they could do it over, they would do it different. So I just don't know why we're glorifying a lifestyle that doesn't even bring happiness or satisfaction. It's so weird, man. You know,
because like, the murder music is catchy. That's what it is. I don't have to be happy. I have a nice catchy
and I get it. No, listen, I'm not knocking it. I mean, I grew up listening to like Mobb Deep. You know what I'm saying? And like, but you know, it's. You know, at the end of the day, I think part of it is that the education level and people take the stuff way too to heart. Like, I mean, when I was young and I was listening to that stuff, I was like, oh, this is crazy. This is hard. I like this stuff. But then it was like, man, at the end, I'd turn off the CD and I'd be like, man, I'm glad I'm not living that lifestyle. Like,
I don't want to go do that. That sounds horrendous.
Yeah, like, I'm not, you know, shit, dude. I'm not like, you know, and I don't know. I mean, I think there was just an element back then, and now it's just changed, you know. So yeah, so I would say that's the big part of it. We gotta bring back intellectualism and reading and sophistication, social sophistication, you know, and that stuff's really important.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know you touched on that a little bit earlier. Just if someone's listening, wants to be connected with you, wants to be a part of Bander Productions, and wants to know more, I just want to leave this as an opportunity for you to just say exactly what it is and just use it as like an outreach point. So every one of our listeners could be like, you know what? I got to go hit him up on Instagram. I got to go be a part of, like, I have to apply. I have to do something with Banger or I'm talking too fast.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Plug yourself in, yeah.
I appreciate it. Well, I tell people definitely tap in with me on the gram. I do a lot of my business on the gram at DJ Bander, DJ BANDER. My email's on there, so you can just shoot me an email, banderproductions@gmail. Yeah, that would be the best way. You know what I'm saying? Tap in with me. Let me know what you're trying to do. If I do a lot of stuff with artist development, a lot of stuff with brands. So if I can help you on that tip, I can help anybody develop. If anybody's looking for beats or production, I do all that stuff too. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I respond to anybody, you know what I'm saying, that comes at me, with genuine questions and seems cool. I'm very responsive, so people should know that, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. What do you have coming up, DJ Bander?
Yeah, so I got a couple singles I'll be dropping, featuring two of my new up and coming artists that I'm developing, the Official ZZ and Sunny. And I'm going to be also working on like an EP/album for the fall as well. So look for those projects. And then I'm also going to be working on some visual content and start really developing out my YouTube. So I'm going to be dropping some cool like YouTube content throughout the winter. And I just moved out here to downtown out in LA. So I'm going to be definitely trying to utilize the environment and start doing some cool projects down here for sure. Hopefully get some clubhouse rooms going with y'all. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep the convo going.
Oh man, listen, we're in a great place to start building. We have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of like resource access. We'll be in contact.
Dude, I look forward to it. And I appreciate the time on your channel for sure, guys. This is DJ Bander, and you're listening to me right now live on the Love of It podcast with Paris Hart and Jason Williams. Real ones. Let's go.